We're taking a live look at the Lincoln Memorial. Good morning, folks, and welcome to the second hour, first edition, only on Newsmax 2. I'm John Burnett.
And I'm Krisha Lenzo. Today is Tuesday, September 2nd. We are back on track, back into the fall. Congress is back. So, yeah, that's basically where we'll start off here.
They're back. Why? Well, we have to begin our hour in Washington because Congress is back in session this morning, and the House and Senate are already hitting the ground running with a government shutdown looming at the end of this month.
Yeah, a lot to do. House Republicans are already looking to cut $13.7 billion across three departments: labor, education, and health and human services. But apparently that's not enough. Joining us now to break it all down, we're joined today by Project 21 Ambassador April Chapman and Democratic strategist and former speechwriter and trial attorney Madeline Somerville. Good morning, ladies.
Hey, good morning.
So, April, Democrats want even more concessions to get a deal done. And we only have 29 days left to pass a new budget or get an extension. The left is poised to blame any shutdown that happens on Republicans. So what's the wise strategy here? Are there going to be more deals? Because when I hear deals, that means a higher debt.
Listen, we've been here before, and it really boils down to this fundamental difference in how each party views the purpose and role of government. Republicans tend to focus on these core functions like infrastructure, national defense. We want to keep the lights on. But Democrats, they often see the government as this tool for a wide array of social programs and humanitarian efforts. So because the visions between the parties are just so different, we get these clashes over the budget. We end up in a standfall, and I just expected this to happen until we get to an understanding of the role of government and what it should be doing. This is going to continue to happen.
Madeline, you're the Democrat in the room here. Do you agree with April? And what do you think will be a major holdup should a shutdown actually occur?
I think that's quite a good assessment. I think that trying to understand where each side is coming from, what their goals are and what their purposes are and their vision for government is a really great place to start, actually. And I agree with April that typically that the left views the purpose of government as more of an infrastructure for the people rather than more of an arm for security and overall protection, which I think the right views it as. So I think here, I think from the time I was little, right, there is always a government shutdown looming in September. So I don't think this is anything new, but with the cuts that are coming, I think it is interesting that Republicans would say, you know, we're worried about the budget when they weren't so worried about the budget in giving tax cuts to the wealthy and getting a whole bunch of debt in front of them. So I'm hoping that the cuts that they make won't take away essential services and won't take away important research, important things that are being done to help the American people.
You know what? With that comment, hold on. let me move my wallet to my front pocket.
Hold on to your cash.
Because the Democrats want to broker a deal, and when they want to broker deals, that means more taxes for Americans. And you know what? Let's deal with what she just said.
That is the line that Republicans use.
It's not a line. It's not a line. Trust me. I look at my deposits, my direct deposits, and it's more taxes being taken out every time they want to broker deals. But April, let's deal with some of what Madeline just mentioned with regard to concessions. We just can't keep going, keeping things regular. We have to make some concessions, get some of the fraud out, waste and abuse, start actually changing the budgetary process, and then make legitimate cuts where, you know what, we don't have to keep doing the same thing over and over. Why? Because we keep getting the same bad results, higher debt. What say you?
Well, the problem is Democrats, every time we talk about cutting, they want to spin their way to prosperity. And we're like, we're already spending too much. And every time you mention that we need to cut this because it is unnecessary, we can never move the conversation forward because to a Democrat, everything is necessary. Spending other people's money is always a necessity. And so I think, like I said in my opening statement, if we can get to the point where we understand the proper role role of government. I think this conversation, we can close or table the chapter, but the problem is you've got generations who are being indoctrinated to believe that the government is God and that it is supposed to supply your every waking need, and this is why we're unable to ever move this forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, also on Capitol Hill today, the Oversight Committee is holding a closed-door meeting with several Jeffrey Epstein victims. And after that, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna and Republican Thomas Massie will be holding a news conference with the victims, all as part of an effort by Khanna and Massie to pass a bill forcing the DOJ to release the Epstein files. But does this change anything, Madeline?
I don't think it does. I don't think it changes anything. And I think that's part of the problem with the Democratic Party, is that there's very little change that's been going on. I do think that Ro Khanna is trying, and I certainly respect that. But I think that with the release of the emails over this past weekend, we have seen that this goes obviously a lot deeper than the American people realized. And I mean, they knew it went deep. They just didn't know how deep. And now that we've seen the associations with Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance, I would like to see that avenue explored. I think the entire overall point, though, is that the MAGA wing of the base really didn't want there to be, and frankly, no one should want there to be a two-tier justice system, right? Justice for people at the top doesn't exist. And I'm hoping that President Trump will make sure that that still happens, and that promise that he and his campaign made leading up to becoming president will still hold.
I know a lot of people are really interested in these Epstein files, but I'm moving on because, you know, there's a lot of other stuff going on. So let's pivot to Chicago. Mm-hmm. We've been spending a great deal of time on this topic lately. Nearly 1,600 individuals arrested have been made so far under President Trump's crime crackdown. We're now in the third week of the federal takeover, and now, you know what? He's actually threatening to move into other cities like Chicago. Just this past weekend, over 50 people shot, and I believe the latest number, 7 fatalities. More and more people in these inner cities are being trapped, if you will, in these crime districts, and Democrats offer no solutions. Now, we know Madeline Somerville, she's a great person, not just because she has a lovely smile, but many of these, and I'm just going to be very blunt here, April, I am tired of these white liberals telling black folk how they should vote, what they should focus on, and tolerate all of this foolishness. What say you?
I recently did an episode on my podcast talking about this very topic. What people don't understand is the city of Chicago didn't earn the name Chirac for no reason. It is called Chirac because the people who live there understand the tyranny that they live under and the lack of law and order that's never put into place there to protect the people. And so here we're seeing a situation where the results that this Democrat-run city is getting are exactly the results that they want to get. You cannot control people, or should I say, you can control people if you keep them perpetually afraid and begging for help. And so when President Trump says, I'm going to step in and do something because I am the president of all people, and I'm not going to leave these people by the wayside just because, well, they're from the hood or they live in the hood and they're used to living this way, he wants people to feel safe. And so for the Democrat leadership to push back against this, they're unable to keep the people safe. At this point, they need to be begging President Trump for help as opposed to saying, do not come to Chicago.
Yeah, well, April, that leads me into the next question here. We have just about a week left of the 30-day limit on Trump's federal takeover in D.C., and we know he's planning to get an extension and take it to other cities like Chicago. The Windy City's Mayor Brandon Johnson, though, says he's ready for the fight.
No federal troops in the city of Chicago. No militarized force in the city of Chicago. We're going to defend our democracy in the city of Chicago.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Madeline, the cleanup has been successful thus far. So why doesn't Johnson and Illinois Governor Pritzker want the president's help? It seems like such an obvious play for them to accept the Trump's help, given these statistics we just talked about.
Doesn't it? It's the perfect catch-22, right? because if Democrats don't want it, they like crime. It's literally the perfect trap that Trump has set up, because here's the thing, right? There are 3 mentions in the body of the Constitution, 2 in the amendments, and 12 in the Federalist Papers, all saying that they didn't want the president to have the power to send in his own army, because that's how you get a king. That is something that we don't stand for as Americans. Because here's the thing, right? You have to admit that if you did want a militarized presence as an authoritarian, this would be the perfect way to do it, because now you've got people, just as April said, you can control people when they're afraid and begging for help, right? So people have the crimes up, right? Democrats won't agree to the fact that that's true, right? It doesn't matter if it's up or it's down. It's a problem. So just first of all, agree to it so that you can get some credibility in saying what I'm saying right now, right? Which is that this is the perfect way to give people an excuse to ask for President Trump to come in with armed guards. And considering all the steps that he's taken that's similar to authoritarianism, such as trying to shut down Wikipedia, discrediting institutions like firing all the people at the CDC, these are all things that stack up, and it's the perfect trick to get the Democrats on board.
Blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you.
Just consider it, right? Just thoughtfully consider it. If you wanted to do this would be the perfect way.
Whatever.
Listen,
Right.
she gives and she takes away.
Here's the thing, April. Here's the thing, April. You see, a lot of these liberals, they don't address the countless people who have been shot, the countless people who have died.
I agree.
All they are concerned, the optics of the law enforcement standing on the street. We're tired of that foolishness. And guess what? Many of them don't live in those areas. So they don't have to be concerned about the day-to-day violence that is going on.
I leave my car
Put your
unlocked,
hand
just
down.
like President Trump said.
We're not concerned about you right now, because
Okay,
you don't live in Chicago, you don't live on the streets of New York, you don't live in Memphis. Tired of the foolishness. April, take it away.
Listen, I'm from New York, and I get it. I am a small government person. I don't want to live under a king. That is not how our country was established.
Respect.
But when things have gotten so bad because of Democrat negligence, it is a willful negligence. There's no other way that you can explain how the crime is this bad, and they believe that they can send social workers to negotiate with criminals and domestic terrorists who are terrorizing American citizens. At this point, I would say there has been an invasion. There's been a takeover. We've got MS-13 gangs that are terrorizing and actively recruiting people in these communities. We're going to have an extreme reaction to extreme results. The problem is, unfortunately, people have already asserted and agreed in their mind that Donald Trump is a dictator, versus Donald Trump is just coming and solving a problem due to their negligence. There is a difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll say this really quickly before we move on. The thing is, the reason why I say that, Madeline, is because, you know what? Let guns start blazing on your block or around the corner. Guess what? You'll be calling for help and welcoming it. Why? Because you want to keep yourself safe, your husband, your children, and everyone in your community. So we need to stop the nonsense.
Yeah, and to your point, John, too, I mean, what's the downside here, Madeline? What's the pushback? Is it just the optics that they don't want the National Guard on the streets? Because the Democrats haven't offered any solutions. They say, affordable housing will solve this problem. But what are they actually doing to bring crime down? Because they manipulate the statistics, and it's still occurring. This is one of the most violent weekends that occurred in Chicago in quite some time. It continues to get worse. So I just don't understand why they wouldn't accept this help. And what are they so scared of? It just seems like it's the past is really not representing what they're trying to provide here.
That's 100% a fair question. And I think it's the exact question that gets at the heart of the issue, right? Because I don't have Trump derangement syndrome, right? Like I said, I hope he gets a Nobel Peace Prize for solving all the wars that he's solved, right? I come on and I give him credit where credit is due. What are they afraid of, right? Once you allow armed guards into a city, you can't control what they're going to do, right?
Yes, you can. We just saw it in D.C. It was incredibly successful. Even Muriel Browser came out and said it was successful.
Quickly.
Go ahead.
Allow me to elaborate quickly. So
Sure.
the official directive from the White House is that when they send the National Guard into these 19 different cities, it's to do clerical work. The official statement from the White House is that it has nothing to do with President Trump's crackdown on crime. Did you guys know that? People aren't reporting this, but I appreciate that Newsmax is giving me the opportunity to say it, right? The official statement is that it has nothing to do with crime. Why? Because under our Constitution and under each state, you're not allowed to do this. That's not the purpose of the National Guard. But Trump wants to be able to send in armed troops. And I would say that it wasn't authoritarian if it wasn't linked up with discrediting institutions, if it wasn't linked up with all the other things that he's done. So that's why I'm saying, why not question that the messaging doesn't fit with the truth?
You know, there are two people who get on my nerves in this world. Not all, but a lot of white liberals and a lot of black people who listen to them. Why so? Because just like we're hearing, oh, we can't let in the law enforcement and National Guard because of the optics, even though black people are dying. Oh, we can't actually have school choice because we have to actually uphold and protect the unions and so forth. I am tired of this narrative of stopping and pushing back on empowerment. And I, you know, I love you, Madeline, but I am not going to tolerate the foolishness of this narrative from liberals when it comes to liberating and allowing people to be safe and live out their American dream.
It's not foolish. It's an honest opinion from my heart and from
Go ahead, April.
A very simple solution to this, if the people of Chicago were allowed to carry legally, invoking, since we want to talk about Constitution, fine, let's go to the Constitution. The Second Amendment gives me the right to bear arms to protect myself. All of the Taquations and the Pedros and all the criminals in these cities, if they knew that the average citizen might be packing Jesus in their heart and a 9mm on their hip, they might think twice before carjacking you and rolling up on you and trying to steal anything from you. So fine, you don't want the military? Cool. Let's just stick with the Constitution and allow people. But if we do that, that's going to force Democrats to be like, well, no, the guns are bad. When it's not the guns. Cain killed Abel with a rock. It is not the hardware. This is a heart issue of evil, wicked people, and evilness and wickedness cannot be allowed to proliferate. You've got to deal with it.
It's true.
And social workers don't deal with evil.
Right, and let it play out. Because we've seen how, again, it worked in D.C., and if President Trump does overstep in other cities, then we'll deal with it. But in this case, there's nothing to lose. It can't get much worse than what we've been seeing on the streets so far. But April Chapman, Madeline Somerville, as always, thank you so much for your insights this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Wow, that was hot and heated.
That was fiery. We're back.
Just the way I like it, folks.